everybody. Today we are talking about the show that brought Jenny and I together, which is Baht Oyunu.
Yes.
And we're so excited to talk about this show. It's so sad that there were only 17 episodes, but at the same time, the lie was getting dragged way too long that it was very annoying to us and to other people I know.
Yes, and we can thank the writer for that.
So, for those of you who need a refresher on what exactly Baht Oyunu is about, our main character is Ada Sozdun, and she grew up with the idea that there was a curse on her family that if you didn't marry your first love, then you would be cursed to be unhappy for the rest of your days, or some horrible accidents and deaths and stuff would happen. And she is married to this guy named Ruzgar, who she proposes to when they go to university together. And he's from, I think, Albania, and so he needs citizenship to stay in Turkey. And so she offers to marry him, but she thinks that something is going to come out of it, but of course it never does.
The reason why she married him is because she had a crush on him. She really thought he was the one, but of course it was only one-sided, and we see that throughout the rest of the show.
It's a mess. Poor Ada. She is a mess. And then, so Ada ends up going to Ruzgar's place of employment, and there's my cat Jasper, to start working as Bora, Ruzgar's boss's assistant, who she ends up blackmailing Bora into being his assistant, which is such a mess. And then we have Tuğçe, who is Bora's partner and who is in love with Bora, but Bora doesn't know that. But she's also kind of dating Ruzgar. And so that's what starts Ada on this path, is that she ends up seeing Ruzgar and Tuğçe kissing when she drives over to their place of work. And then there's these people I hate so much. Ada's aunts. The older one is Nergis, and the younger one is Yasmin. And then there's Ada's best friend, who is Celine. And then there's Ali, who is Bora's cousin, who also works at the company, and he ends up dating Celine. And then we have Jalal Bey, who is the immigration officer that Ada and Ruzgar had to obviously meet with when they were going through their marriage citizenship.
In episode 1, where she starts off saying that everybody in her family is cursed, and we see that with her mom, and then her older aunt is the one that kind of beats the system and goes, I'm gonna marry the person that wants to marry me, and that's how I'll be happy. However, Ada is not like that. She wants to have true love. She believes she sees it in Ruzgar, and she wants to go surprise him because they've already had their whole marriage being official from meeting with Jalal Bey. So she goes, I'm gonna make such a big surprise for him, and then that's where she sees Celine and him making out.
You mean Tuğçe?
Tuğçe.
Celine, that would have been even worse if it was her best friend in Ruzgar.
We should point out that Celine does not like Ruzgar at all.
Yeah, she hates him. And for good reason, obviously, finding Ada ends up seeing the light. But what's interesting too, what I loved about this show, is how Bora is introduced. How he's introduced is so interesting because Ada is a waitress originally. Yes. So let's rewind to how they first meet. Ada's a waitress, and Bora and his date end up going, and she's their server at the restaurant, and she overhears the things that Bora is saying to this lady and is rightfully upset. We end up finding out, of course, that Bora was testing her because he's a writer and also the owner of this Bizde, which is like a
website. It's a website.
A social media website, news thing. There's articles and things.
Yeah. And he was undercover, basically. So when I saw Bora being introduced, I was like, why would they introduce the main character like this? Because I was so turned off by him, because his date has been vegetarian her entire life, and so he kind of tempts her into eating meat.
Yeah, he was playing the role of he was writing an article, I think he says later, about how women change for men and like change themselves too much. So it was a really good and important point that he was making, even though when we first meet him, like Jenny said, like you're like, ew, who is this guy? This guy's horrendous. How is this the main character? But then you end up finding out, of course, the Bora is nothing like that, that he was just doing that to see and prove a point, basically, that women do sadly change themselves for a man, which obviously we do not condone at all. And I would have done the same thing that Ada does. So Ada ends up like spilling something on Bora because she's mad, like overhearing how he's treating this lady, especially since she has been spurned recently by Rustar, her husband. Even though it's not really her husband, because we find out that they never even kiss, they don't stay in the same room, like nothing like that. But Rustar made her think that finally, when they were at their 3-year anniversary, that he was actually going to propose with a real ring, and that it was finally going to be a real marriage. So Ada has all of that going through her, and then Bora does says all these horrible things to that lady, and she gets upset. So she throws stuff on him, and this is one of my favorite parts of the episode, or actually, yeah, one of my favorite parts is when she goes into the bathroom because her boss makes her go help clean his shirt off. And she's giving him like a bunch of the wrong cleaning supplies. And so he's like, no, we can't use that. And you can see right away that Bora, there's an attraction between the two of them. He is into her. And he ends up like slamming her against the wall, like after he gets his shirt back on eventually when they're bantering which they're in the men's room together, by the way. And I love this part because a guy comes walking in and he like looks at them like, what is going on?
Time for me to leave.
He went into the stall, of course, because I had him standing right next to the urinal. So it was really, really funny. But so that there you see the first spark of our beloved Ada Bora is when they leave the bathroom. His shirt is still unbuttoned, which is very sexy, and he basically slams her against the wall, and you can see he is having some feels already.
He's having too much fun with bantering with her. I feel like we see that automatically in the first episode that he likes arguing with her, and she's like upset. She's like, what the hell? Because like everything that she sees of him being rude or whatever is all that she saw, but Celine, her friend, saw that he was actually being undercover for the whole article, and she doesn't get the chance to tell Ada that that's what happened, that, you know, he's undercover, so she already has this wrong impression of him and giving him wrong supplies to clean off his shirt.
Oh yeah, I love he's like, this will actually ruin my shirt, not clean it.
Yeah. Her introduction was definitely the funniest I've seen so far for a rom-com. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why I kept watching.
I like that already they were coming up with talking about important topics, like we mentioned before, about how women change for men. I thought it was really important and really surprising and good that a Disney was talking about that, because not many do.
And later on, another one of my scenes is that I really liked from the show was, of course, that whole fake dating trope started all the way from episode 1, where like not really fake dating, but like people already confusing them as a couple, like when she had to go to the hospital and the nurse goes, "Your wife is okay," and then Bora and Ada go, "I'm not his wife.
Not my spouse."
Spouse. That was really funny to me.
I love the hospital scene, but my other favorite from the episode is right after the hospital scene when he ends up forcing her into his car instead of her taking a cab. And then she ends up getting nauseous in the car, and so he has to help her get out, which was so cute. And so she ends up falling into him, and like they're hugging, and it's so sweet. And she's like they're kind of like having feels again, like even both of them. I think that might be the first time that we see that Ada's kind of having feels, but she's obviously even more guarded than he is, because she has the Rusgar vest that just happened to her, and she's still dealing with, and he ends up kneeling in front of her, which I love so much. It's so sweet.
And I believe Bora even says at one point, "Oh, you're acting like this because you just went through a recent heartbreak." So I was like, wow, he understands women. I was really
Yeah,
impressed.
he even says, "Oh, I didn't know you were a psychic." So right away, we can see that Bora is very, very perceptive. And he says it's because he's a writer, but I don't know if it's necessarily that. I think it just might be Bora.
Yes, I just believe that's a character trait he has.
And episode 2 is both of ours.
Oh,
well,
we
I have a
love
list of
this
my favorite
episode.
episodes. This is one of them. It's one of Jenny's as well. We love this episode so much. Speaking of the fake dating.
Oh my gosh. One of my favorite tropes, you guys. Like, you need to know about me. I'm so in for a marriage of convenience, fake dating, enemies to lovers. Top 3 right there for me.
Yeah, fake and fake relationship is my absolute favorite trope ever. So I was already into this show in episode 1, and then come episode 2, we had this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest.
Yes.
So we do want to talk about our favorite moments from episode 2.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. So basically what happens is Tuche and Bora are supposed to go out for dinner with these potential business partners. But of course, Ada already is in the process of trying to make Ruskir jealous. Ruskir and Tuche both, because she hates Tuche at this point. She sees her as the enemy, the one that took away her husband. So what she does is she finds a way to get herself to go with Bora.
Drugs Tuche. She drugs her, and she ends up getting she passes out in a like clothing store changing room.
Oh yes, and she gets stuck in the store.
Yeah, she gets locked in the store. Sadly, Rusgar ends up I forgot how Rusgar ends up there, but Rusgar ends up saving her.
Anyway, so they're at the restaurant, and she comes in wearing these clothes, and Bora's like, "What the hell are you wearing? This is not appropriate for this date." And so then he gets her a dress, and he basically drags her to the bathroom and goes, "Here, put this on." So she goes, "Okay, fine." But what happens is that she's not able to put on her zipper. So she calls him over, and then he goes, "Okay, I'll put on the zipper." But then she makes him close his eyes to put it
Yes.
on. I was like, what?
She's like, yeah, and then he says, "Well, how am I going to be able to zip this up if I can't see Ada?" And she's like, "You look like a man who knows what he's doing," like insinuating that he knows how to take clothes on and off. Yeah. His eyes closed.
And then basically as he's doing this, it's all slow-mo, and you see him smelling her hair.
Yes. The feels. No, I don't know what is up with Disney's and smelling people, but like, he is obsessed with her smell from like the get-go.
Then forward, you know. So if you guys have the opportunity to see it, wait, give me a sec. Maybe I'll post it on here. Her outfit. She looked so beautiful from that night. Oh my goodness.
And I love the shoes that he got too.
Her dramatics are so funny in that episode. And then as they're walking over to their clients, her heel kind of gets stuck, or something happens to her heel, and basically she can't walk, and she's like, "I can't do anything." And then she looks at Bora. She goes, "Can you put on my shoe?" And then of course Bora, being the gentleman does, he gets down on the ground in front of everybody in that restaurant. Their entire attention is on them at this point.
That is still one of my top scenes from a Disney ever / in this show. I love it so much. And Ada says something that I love so much. She's like, "He's just like this at home too."
Yeah. Really playing into the whole "he's my boyfriend." That's my favorite scene. And then another thing that I really like, another one of my personal favorite scenes, is when Bora is busy talking to his clients. Ada is like in the next to him. She's like taking pictures. She's like, "Hey." And she's sending them to Ruskir, like basically saying, "Hey, look at where I am and look at where you are at." And that's what motivates Ruskir to get Tuche out of the store and, you know, go and ruin their entire date.
That's what I was remembering. I'm like, that's the only reason why they knew, like, that they were there.
I mean, Tuche already knew, but she didn't tell Ruskir about it because, of course, she's trying to hide the fact that she's into Bora while she's with Ruskir. Ruskir ended up finding out, and that's how this whole mess started with them uninvitedly going to Bora and Ada's date.
Because Rusgar takes a chocolate from the restaurant and eats it, and he must realize that there's alcohol in it. And then he's like, Ada Hanım, do you want a chocolate? And she was like, sure. And then immediately, literally immediately, she all of a sudden makes this face, and Bora and everybody at the table is like, Ada, are you okay? And then she gets up and she has this amazing speech about, rambling speech about men and betrayal, and it's all about Rusgar, of course. But she is kind of making a fool of herself. But what is really, really sweet, another favorite moment of that episode for me, is that Bora actually ends up defending Ada to the client. Yes. Because he's like, what is wrong with this lady? Like, how could this be your girlfriend, basically? He was like, she's a mess. Like, you need to take her home. And he was just like, don't talk about her like that. And he was like, we're leaving. And he picks up Ada in his arms and carries her out. And it was so cute as Ada's singing, Ruz, 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 Ruz.
It's a chaotic mess. If you have the chance to watch that episode, I would highly recommend episode 2. Best episode for me, honestly.
Yes, we freaking love that episode so much. It's so good. And so the next day, Ada's obviously fired. So Ada comes back to give him his dry cleaning and to apologize profusely. And he ends up giving her the money that he owes her, because they signed a contract, so that if he ended up firing her, she would get 1 million lira. Mm-hmm. And what's really another good thing about Ada, who made us love her even more, was that she ends up ripping up the check. Yes. Which really surprised and impressed Bora. Mm-hmm. He was not expecting that at all.
Is she a better woman than me? I would have taken the check.
Exactly. I would have taken the check and then also been like, also, no, I'm not leaving.
Surprise, I'm not leaving.
What was cute, too, is the client ends up coming back after she leaves and says that even after Ada defended Bora so much at the dinner last night, Bora fired her anyway. And so he kind of spurs Bora to end up, he goes in his car and he's remembering the moments before, during, and after the dinner on his drive back to her apartment to apologize. And so he shows up and he says he's changed his mind about firing her, and he has won her lost stiletto because she was like Cinderella, and when he carried her into her apartment after the dinner when she was trashed from that chocolate. And so he's got that in his hand, and he's ironically says to her he needs a good, honest assistant like her. Little did they know how ironic that statement would be. Because
you cannot escape from Ada.
Telling so many lies. Obviously, the biggest one is that her and Rusgar are married, which is a theme throughout the entire show. But then because of that, she ends up having to spin out of control into these other ones, and it's just a huge, huge mess.
Well, he can't get rid of Ada even if he tried, because we have Bora's niece, Elif, who is like in love with Ada from the moment she meets her, because I believe there's like some scene where Bora's dad is asking Elif, why do you like her so much? And she goes, she has green eyes that remind me so much of my mom. And I'm like, oh my god, aw. So
yeah, there wasn't enough backstory on the show about Elif's mom, aka Bora's sister. Because they've said multiple times throughout the show that she reminds them, like, not just Elif the daughter, but also, I believe his dad says it as well. But it's very cute, too, because Elif ends up asking if he loves her, if he loves Ada, too. And it's interesting because he doesn't answer. He just changes the subject.
Exactly.
So. I was like, there's that little nugget of information that later will come up.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I really loved about Ada, before we move on, is the scene where right before she's about to enter the company, I believe she sees Ruski, and she goes, don't give up, Ada, you will be happy. And she does the hair flip, and she's like, and
yeah, that is one of my favorite things about her too, that she's such a great cheerleader for herself. Mm-hmm. And she tries to pull herself out of, dark thoughts, or if she's in a bad space, she just really tries to bring herself up and it's so cute the way she does it too. Like, she's so inspiring and adorable. We love Ada so much. She's one of my all-time favorite Disney characters.
Yes, for sure.
On episode 3, Jenny thinks that this is when they have the most development, and I had even forgotten about all of this beginning so soon in the series. But Tucha and Ada end up being teamed up. So Ada's helping Tucha to try to get Bora, because Ada pretends to be the ideal Kadin. So the ideal woman is her chat name in this like dating website chat room thing. And so Tucha's like, you need to help me, Ada. And so Ada like ends up impressing Bora, and Bora's talking to this mysterious woman and not knowing that, first of all, it's Ada, but then it's Ada pretending to be Tucha, which is another thing. And my favorite part of the episode was when they went to Bora's mountain house. And it was really cute because there were a lot of good moments between Bora and Ada. And it's really interesting too because
somehow Rooster gets into this as well. And
Rooster ends up like inviting himself again per usual, because he knows, because he wants to go with Tucha. That's why.
And Tucha wants to be with Bora, and then Ada just wants to stay in her job. She does not want to be with none of them. She just wants to make sure that she has a job and she stays employed, which is so funny to me that how this relationship even works.
And one of my favorite scenes too of the entire show happens in this episode, where they end up having to spend the night because of car trouble, and Tucha and Ruzgar are in the bedroom, and then Bora's sleeping on the floor and Ada's sleeping on the couch, and during the night Ada ends up rolling off the couch and like rolls over snuggled up, like fully spooning Bora, and then they wake up, or Bora wakes up, and then Ada realizes it's such a cute moment though. They're so cute.
And then as much as I don't like Rooster, the more that I'm talking about this show, the more I realize how important that he is for Ada and Bora's relationship. Because if Ada had not gotten out of that room to use the bathroom, and Rooster had not noticed and gone in without Ada noticing, there would have been no Ada and Bora.
Episode 4 picks up right where we left off, and I love that Bora, of course, is the one that caught her. And you can also see too, it's another big development, is Bora is like really, really freaked out and is very worried for Ada, since Ada passed out. Funniest, I think, ever in a Disney is the high heels moment.
Oh, yeah, oof. So many people asked us to bring this up in this podcast. Oh my god.
I love the high heels moment. It's so funny. It just makes me laugh so hard. iTouch was seriously going so hard during that scene. Like, it was seriously so good. And so because of that, the reason that Ada randomly starts wearing high heels is because Tucha tells her that the only reason that 2 of his previous assistants, stayed on for an extra month or 2 was just because they were wearing high heels. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to wear high heels. But of course, because Bora is so into her already, that then when she wears the high heels,
he could not control himself. Yes. Oh, he was undoing his tie.
It's a mess. He was so bad. And then Ada's like so upset, and she was like, oh no, even I couldn't, she was like, even the heels couldn't save. Bora's like, pull yourself together, Bora. And he ends up calling his ex-girlfriend, Fulia, to set up a dinner. And so it shows how much Bora is into Ada, that already in episode 4,
he's trying to push any feelings that he has for her away. Like, he's probably thinking, if I get back with my ex, or if I have something to do with my ex, I'll probably forget that Ada exists, or, he just basically wants to get away from her, but he can't.
Dinner is a mess. Chaotic. So Tucha and Ada end up saying girl power, which is one of the themes that they end up having through the show, which was really funny. And even though I hate Tucha, because she's horrible to poor Ada, I did enjoy their scenes where they teamed up together against Fulia. And so they end up crashing the dinner, sitting at the table right next to them, and Bora's not aware. And one of my favorite moments, too, of this episode is that Bora ends up saying Ada's name. He calls Fulia Ada, and she's like, "Who's Ada?"
Who Ada?
It was so good. Shook by Ada that he's so discombobulated that he's calling his ex-girlfriend, who it seems like he was together for a bit. He's calling her Ada. And we have what you think is real, but turns out being a dream of Ada and Fulia fighting, and Tucha too, and they end up attacking her.
Oh yeah, they yank it out only to find out that it's extension. She's just staring at her like, I'm ready to fight. Her expressions, Cemre's expressions as Ada. Oh my goodness, top tier.
It
gives me Sanem vibes.
She is seriously so good.
She literally graduated from the school of Demet who's here.
Yes, she did. The Sanem vibes were so strong. And that's why we loved this show and loved Ada right away, because Sanem is our all-time fave.
Yes,
so
exactly. That's one of the reasons why I watched this show, why I started, is because when that show ended, I was trying so hard to find a rom-com that was similar. And I hadn't found one that was until BO came along, and I was like, oh my goodness, the Office vibes, everything, I love it. Let's watch it. And then, oh my gosh, Ada gave up so many Sanem vibes. I'm like, I'm sticking around for this show.
So he starts off his morning with Ada coming in, and she was
notices.
With the financial markets, she was messing up their names, and he notices right away that she's dressed like differently, Tucha. And he asked her why, and she says Tucha is her style icon.
And the reason why she's doing this is she's kissing up to Tucha because she knows that if she kisses up to Tucha is the only way that she can keep her job if anything goes wrong with
because
Bora.
She was trying to set them up too, because remember, she wants Ruzgar back. So if she gets Bora and Tucha together, it's a double win for her, because Tucha will keep her on and the company, and she'll be away from Ruzgar.
Exactly. Another moment that I really liked from this episode is when Elif and Ada are making cake, because for some reason, somehow, her family ends up staying with his family.
It's because the apartment is supposed to be getting accumulated. She put up with that lie, I think, so that they end up staying.
And also because of Elif as well, because Elif already says that she sees Ada as her mom. What happens is her grandma, Bora's mom, does not want her to keep going over to Ada's place, so then somehow Bora's dad goes with the idea that why don't they move in for a while until Elif is like, at least Elif gets over them, basically. So that is why they're at her house. So Ada and Elif are bonding, and then they make a cake together. And what's so funny is that they're done making the cake, she leaves a piece out, and then she goes to do something. And Bora is coming back from his run, and he sees a piece of cake. I'm not sure whether he knows.
It's before his run.
Oh, before his run. I'm not sure if he knows if it's Ada's. It is Ada's cake. He knows, right?
I don't think he knows. He just sees a piece of cake, and so he ends up shoving it all in his mouth, and then she turns around, and it's so funny. Oh no, she didn't turn around. She kneeled down, because remember she spilled flour or something.
And she's kneeling down to pick it up, and then she puts it on the counter, and at this moment, Bora turns around, and he's trying to chew down the cake, so he doesn't.
He doesn't have food in his mouth too, because she starts talking to him, and he's just and of course, Ada starts crying. She's dying. She thinks.
I love moments like these in a Disney, where we see.
Yeah, they were so cute and funny, and she's like, "Oh, are you eating a little bit of cake?"
But then I keep forgetting that people that watched the show was mostly teenagers, because I have to remember that the main leads of this show were pretty young. They're in their early 20s, I believe.
Mid-20s, 23, 24, I think they are now.
Yep.
But yeah, then the next episode is interesting because Ada ends up coming up with the idea for our new article is going to be about white marriage, aka green card marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And Bora really likes that idea, so he asked Tucha and Ada to each prepare an article about it. And so they both end up doing research. Of course, Ada obviously knows a lot about this topic.
I mean, she's living it.
Yeah, because she's living it. And so then she ends up getting her bestie, Celine, to end up pretending to be her source. Yes. And she has Celine wear a paper bag for the meeting with Bora and Ali, and it was so funny.
Oof. Oh, can we rewind a bit? Because at the beginning of the episode is my favorite scenes that they have because after they had that fight, Ada storms off, and then Bora, he's already has like a bad knee or something. He's using a stick to go out and look for her, which I thought was so funny.
Oh yeah. And then he goes to look for her. Ada stormed off after their fight into the woods. Yes, exactly. And she's like lost.
And then as soon as he finds her, they get picked up by the police because they think that they're out there doing illegal stuff, and they spend like the night in jail because everybody's looking for them.
Oh yeah, and so what ends up happening about the articles is that Tucha ends up stealing Ada's article. Like she switches the names on them so that Tucha wins the bet that they had going. Bora said whoever writes the best article, it'll be featured on the front page of the website. And so Tucha, of course, who's a little snake, she ends up switching their articles so that Tucha's is Ada's and Ada's is Tucha's. And so Ada is like so surprised that she loses. And then Ada is disgusted and ends up like basically telling Bora, she's like, this is my article. Like, I can't believe you don't believe me. And she's very upset. And so Bora ends up going to apologize to Ada. And it was so sweet. So much chemistry.
We have to point out at this point that it's not just Bora that doesn't really believe her. It's the entire office that kind of gaslights her. Like, who are you to be writing such a great article? And Tucha Anam has been here for years.
And she's the editor-in-chief and like all this stuff. It was horrible.
Yeah.
He's known Tucha since they were little kids, too. So that's the other important thing to remember.
Yep. So, I mean, I understand where he was coming from as a viewer, that he would believe Tuche over Ada, but at the end of the day, he eventually finds that first piece of article that Ada was trying to give to him to get hired was basically Baht Oyunu, the name of the show, surprisingly. So when he finds that, he realizes his error and goes to apologize. But however, when she opens the door, of course,
so they're talking and having this lovely moment, this also romantic moment, because Bora is looking at her so lovingly and like shook, and then it seems like they're about to like almost kiss in a way, and then Ruzgar comes in his damn bathrobe
and ruins the moment. Yes, ruined the moment. And so of course that's how we start episode 6, which is one of both of our favorite episodes. And so Ada ends up chasing after Bora, and she ends up getting on the back of like a moped of this pizza delivery guy and chases him which Bora's in his car. And it's really one of my favorite moments of the entire show ends up happening because they end up stopping at this park and having pizza together. And it's so cute. And then they end up having a great walk. Walk barefoot. And somehow these
making Bora
not goons, but these random guys just suddenly out of nowhere start making fun of them for like not wearing shoes or whatever. And then
they were like, "Oh, you're out on a romantic walk with your girlfriend," and they have a really, really romantic moment, which is my all-time favorite of Adbor, is when she notices that he has this little scar on the corner of his eye, and so she touches it. very sweetly and like very romantically, and
Yes.
he's looking at her, and he tells her the story because she asks what happened, and he says that only his parents basically know and have noticed. Nobody's ever asked him about that scar, so you can see that again his feels are starting.
What I like about this story about the scar is that actually the actor himself has that scar, and he was basically saying that the writers basically noticed his scar and they wrote it into the story because it wasn't a made-up scar like with makeup. He actually has that scar in real life.
And then the other reason that this episode is our favorite is because the team ends up going to this relationship camp for research for a new article. And so it's Bora, Ada, Tuğçe, and Rüzgar. So Bora and Ada are obviously a couple, and then Tuğçe and Rüzgar. And there's so many amazing moments in this episode. It was so funny and so good.
There was one where he got really jealous of Ada with the dance instructor. They're learning to do the salsa, I believe. I don't remember whether it was the
it's Tuğçe's old friend and her old dance partner, ironically, too. That's the best part. So they end up, of course, there's so many great moments because they have to pretend to be a couple and they share a room. Mm-hmm. So they end up he wakes up and he is totally spooning Ada, and he like freaks out and like sneaks away before she knows that happened. And they have to do all these exercises, and they were so great. Like they have to touch each other's faces and like be imagining each other's faces or something. And so then Ada's touching his scar again and like smiling, and he like opens his eyes and is looking at her, and it's so cute. And then they end up having to lay like yin and yang, and they're like gazing at each other, and that was so cute. There's so many great moments. They have this hilarious fake like almost breakup fight because Bora didn't bring a suit, because they have that dancing that Jenny was mentioning that night.
He needs to find a way to get out of that camp, and the only way to do so was to fight and make a huge scene. And so for
that he could go to the suit place so that he could like get away.
Because what they're trying to do, the whole point of this episode was to show that camp was a scam. That it was just gaining money.
Yeah, that lady was like stealing people's passports and like money and wasn't a real relationships expert. Mm-hmm. So they end up breaking into her room. Bora and Ada, which is another great moment.
The irony of this episode is that Ada and Bora became way more closer in this episode than anybody would have thought. And then of course we get the durman scene. Where every time he comes close, she starts thinking about her dead cat.
Oh yes, Duman, yeah. Because this point, Ada is just as affected almost as Bora is. Exactly. So now she has to keep thinking about her dead cat, Duman, to not be catching feels and like be swooning at him because she keeps catching herself. And so then the next episode, she gets so bogged down by all the lies that she's told Bora, and so she decides to quit her job. And Bora is so shaken by her sudden decision, and he's trying to figure out like why she would be giving up her dreams to be a writer, just like that.
And he's kind of lost trust in her for doing that. He's like, how would she be able to do that so quickly like that, and she not devote herself to work like he's in a way devoted himself to his work. So he begins to lose trust in her, and then he cuts her off from the company.
Upsetting, but I mean it made sense because he was obviously very hurt. Like he was trying to pretend it was just the work thing, but it was obviously also because he was not going to be able to spend time with Ada like he was. Yes. And what was also really my favorite part of that episode was when they go back to her university because Bora has a talk to make to the students or something. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the other lies that she told. Or I guess she didn't really tell him this. They just insinuated or assumed that she had her bachelor's degree. But we find out that Ada didn't end up graduating because of her trash husband, Rüzgar. She was only like
her job to support him.
Yeah, so Ada's like very upset about that. And so like she is like in it when they go to her university. She's like feeling all of this and feels so uncomfortable and horrible that she's lying to Bora about not only being married but also he thinks that she's a graduate, even though she's technically not. And so he ends up, his speech, he ends up sort of talking about Ada, which is so lovely. And then he ends up calling her up for her to tell the students, like, it gets better and like all this stuff and do this speech. And it was another really great moment of Bora showing how much he truly values Ada, like as a person. And you can see also romantically, because
I like this little moment that he has, like there's no name tag for her. So he takes his name tag, flips it over and writes her name, and then goes to put it as she's giving the speech, which was so sweet of him. I was like, oh my God.
I forgot about that. That is one of my other favorites. Look at you. Thank you for remembering that. I love that part so much. It was so cute.
I love little moments like that when writers sneak in a little, something about the character that we didn't know before. Like, that's really sweet of Bora. Just adds on to his layers as a person,
Yeah, because at first you think that he's just all about work and is like serious and unfeeling, like robot-y in some ways. But then you see like how quickly he ends up caring for Ada so much that he's so hurt by her leaving as his assistant so quickly.
This is where she's really going through it, because it wasn't the lie that that was really hurting her. The whole not being able to complete her education was in fact a little lie, but it wasn't as big as the whole she's married,
Yeah.
Because the reason why she doesn't want to tell Bora that she's married is because in his thing for assistants, he has a rule that he will not take married women, because they're supposed to devote all of their time to him as a boss.
I know. Which, if you think about it, it's like, what the hell is going on? This
to devote your time to your boss
and questionable and problematic.
Exactly.
It's just like, wait, what's going on? So that's another important thing to point out, is that that's the reason that Ada ends up lying about being married, because she could have just said she was married. She did not said who she was to, because obviously she couldn't say it was Rusgar, because he also works, he's the photographer at the company, so that would be weird. But she couldn't even say she was in fact married, because then she wouldn't be able to work there again because of that.
And like, she couldn't say that she was married to Rusgar, because Rusgar and Tuche had already announced to everybody, hey, we're dating. Or hey, we're getting married. Something like
it's just a mess. It's a mess all around.
He doesn't care about Tuche at all. Like, if he had feelings for her, we would have seen them by now. It's like how Sarkhan, again, I'm going to bring up the SCK comparison because that's one of another shows I've really watched, with Sarkhan and Celine. He had a thing for Celine in the beginning. He wanted to make her jealous for leaving him or blah blah blah. It wasn't the case in this scenario. So when
Bora never saw her as anything but a friend.
Yes, exactly. And Ali was teasing him, hey, like, she's in a relationship with someone else, do you care? And at first the I think it was a misdirect for the audience, because he goes, she could do whatever she wants. So we're already thinking that, oh Lord, he's like in love with this lady. But the thing is, he doesn't see her nothing more than a friend. And that's how it's always been.
God.
Because there's
a
time.
So this would have been a love triangle, and thank God it wasn't.
Yes.
It never actually was. It was always just
one-sided.
On the side.
Exactly. It was never anything more. I honestly don't believe that Tuche had that much feelings for Bora as well. I'm pretty sure she just wanted the company for herself.
Yeah, because then we end up finding out later, of course, that it's Tuche that's the one that filmed the video and released the video.
Because she was hoping to get
causes companies trouble and puts Bora in hot water. And by that we mean, remember how we were mentioning in the first episode, Bora was pretending to be that guy that makes women. Well, he was trying to get the woman to like prove his point.
The only other person that knew about that mission was Tuche.
Yeah, I don't know why people weren't thinking this right away, that it was Tuche, but yeah, the whole thing is just so bizarre, and it's really funny too, because in the next episode, Rusgar ends up, in episode 8, Rusgar actually finally does something good for us and for the show. Because he ends up blackmailing Tuche to get Ada back to work. Because Ada's working at this restaurant again, and they end up coming in for dinner, as business dinner, and it's Tucha and them. And so she's explaining that she lied to Bora, and he's unable to accept it, and he said he doesn't want to see her ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ada's so upset with the words that he said to her, and she wants to re-enter the company and prove herself. So then she ends up going to Ruzgar to get. She was like, "You need to help me." So she's like, "You need to help me because like this is your fault."
So Ada is blackmailing Ruzgar, and then Ruzgar basically blackmails Tuche. Tuche.
Yeah, it's like a circle of blackmail mess.
But Tuche is able to convince Bora to take her back under her wing. So again, Ada is no longer under Bora's She's not being his secretary. She's now Tuche's secretary. So
yeah, so Bora ends up like even though he accepts it, he is not exactly on board.
Yeah, and
so
he gives them a task. He says, "Okay, we want you to interview this singer or this musicianist, and if you're able to get it, you can stay. You can have your job in the company." And then of course, Ada being Ada is like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna take this challenge."
This guy, I wish this guy became a regular character, Kuzibati. He is so freaking funny.
Where have we seen him before?
He was in Affili Ashk.
Yes, Affili Ashk.
He played Memor something.
He played
like a
the
grandpa
math.
name. He was the math tutor of Aisha.
Yes, of Aisha. And then in that show, it took a dark turn because he was trying to, get a little touchy with her. But in this one, he was still trying to get touchy with Ada, but it wasn't a funny way.
He was so hardcore hitting on Ada,
writing a song.
One of my favorite scenes from the episode and from the show, and like just in general, is the plan to get Kuzibati as their like guest for the website. They're going to do this interview for the website.
It's like a live video interview, I believe. They've never done like a live interview.
Yeah, and so Ada ends up and Tucha end up figuring out that he runs in this park at this certain time, and so they end up going there, and it's really, really funny because Ada was literally me. Because she can't run and doesn't want to run, and she was like, "Tucha, like, why do you do this to yourself? Like, I'm dying," and she's like wheezing and making all these noises and like falling over. It was so funny. Cemre is just such a freaking gem. She's so good at this stuff.
I could not believe this was her first time doing a rom-com. She's so amazing. Like, she just, woo. And I believe she came straight out of Rommel, right? This was her next show.
Yeah, I think that was the most recent thing. They end up running into him after, Ada was like hyperventilating from the run, and she was just like, "Why are you doing this? Like, this is basically torture." And Tucha's like, "What are you talking about?" And, like, her, like, athletic, jumpy self.
That'd be me and you because I work out so much, and then Gabby's trying to catch up with me.
Yeah, literally. I'm Ada. I vividly remember taking a video when this episode aired, and I took a video of it and posted on Instagram, and I was like, this is literally me if I try to run. And that ends up being important because then they go to the office the next day, and Bora's like so smug, thinking that they couldn't do it, and he can't believe when they're like, "Oh yeah, he's coming in later today for the interview," and he's like, "What?" And so then the interview, Kuzibati keeps like hitting hardcore on Ada
as the interview is going on. So basically, everybody in the entire world and their mom is watching this happen live.
Bora in the background behind the camera, where like Ada and Kuzibati are facing, he's making all these faces and reactions. He's lifting his hands up. He's like making all these funny movements and reactions. It's so obvious that he's so jealous and like going crazy.
This is like the most we've seen him be jealous. I can't.
Yeah, he has never been more jealous than here. And it was so funny, too, because he was trying to keep his distance from Ada at that point because he was still mad at her for quitting and everything. And then somehow weaseling her way back with Tucha, which he still doesn't get. And then later, after that, so Bora's like having a meltdown. And so then Kusibati, when he's outside about to get into his car, he invites Ada to an after party, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then he was like, "Oh, is it because that guy's your boyfriend or something like that?" He thinks, again, here's what Jenny was saying about people consistently thinking that that's her boyfriend, and she was like, "No, that's not my boyfriend." Of course, that's like when Bora was like in the background hearing this, so he ends up hearing that she's going to go to the after party. And so then he makes Tucha go with her. He's like, "You have to go with Ada to this after party." And she was like, "I don't want to go to this after party. And like, why would I go with Ada?" And he was like, "That's your girl," basically. He's like, "Remember how you fought so hard for her to come back?"
I love that about him. He used it against her.
Yeah. He Uno reversed that. He was like, "Wait a second. No. That's your girl. You fought so hard to bring her back. You're going to go and protect her." He was like, "I don't like this guy. And she's your assistant. She's your,
she's your responsibility."
And then my other favorite part of the episode is when he starts singing the song for Ada.
Yes, oh my god, that was such a horrible song. Oh my god.
Everyone go watch that song. It's so funny. It's so funny. It makes me laugh every time I watch it. I've seen it probably at least 10 times. It's so freaking funny. And so he's like literally serenading Ada in front of Bora, while also
badly serenading.
Are trying to give Ada the ring back because it has their names on the inside. So that was the other thing that was going on in this episode, is that Tucha accidentally ended up getting the ring that has Ada's name in it. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, "Oh no, we're going to be like found out. So like we have to switch the rings." Mm-hmm. And so this whole episode, they were also trying to do that. And so finally during this performance, they end up doing the handoff and switch the rings. And it's so funny because Ada is like obviously uncomfortable with this song and being serenaded because she's not into this guy.
She's exactly me. I don't care even if it was the guy I liked. If he had done that, I would have still been like, "Ooh."
Literally, that's my worst fear, by the way, Jenny, being serenaded. Yeah. Like, it makes me cringe so hard.
I remember when Gabby was telling me this, I was like, "Oh my god, we really are sisters."
Yes, because we both can't stand that. Like, it's like one of our worst fears is to have some guy, even if it's our boyfriend, even if it was a famous person, like, even if it was like, I don't even know.
Who's somebody that we both... Akin, if it even, I don't think Akin would even do that. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't care who it is. I don't want anybody serenading me. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think it's even more awkward and worse when you're alone. Oh, like I would rather have it happen in front of a concert of people rather than just the two of us, because then it would be even more awkward.
Oh, but rewind. Remember when they went out to like the college where they gave the speech? He actually sang her a song. I totally forgot about this until.
Oh yeah, oh my god, we totally did. Yes. And that was so actually sweet. Really cute. Yeah. That was the one time that I wasn't cringing.
I was like, wow. Because I think like a college student asked him, "Oh, do you know how to play something?" And he goes, "Yeah."
"Oh, you play guitar, yeah." And then he was full on serenading Ada, and she was.
I don't even think he was really trying to serenade her. He was just basically showing off that, hey, I could play the guitar.
Oh, no, he was. He was looking at her like he was like.
That was a really sweet moment. Like that whole episode was really
ruins it by quitting right after.
I know maybe that's why he was really butthurt. Like he did all this sweet stuff for her, and then she just left. Like bye.
Yeah, he was heartbroken because he like opened himself up to her, even though he wasn't realizing it. I don't think he did, because I don't think he doesn't realize his feelings until a lot later. But confront. But
yeah, he got hurt. That's why he got jealous in this episode. After he did all that, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. And then episode 9, our least favorite person, Meltem, who's a childhood friend of Bora, ends up coming to work as Bora's assistant. Mm-hmm. And originally, Tucha and Ada end up joining forces to try to eliminate all of the assistant candidates.
Exactly. Oof. And then
Melton was being sus.
Melton, I didn't even like her.
Well, I don't even want to talk about her that much because now I'm getting like
basically. But what happens is, Ada like is really suspicious of her, and then overall, episode 9 and 10 deals with them trying to find out what she's hiding, and because they're trying to find out what she's hiding, she somehow gets Bora on board to help her out to find out what it is that Melton is hiding from everybody. And at first he does this because he's like, whatever, like, I'll just do it to entertain you, you know? He's not really thinking that she's actually hiding something. Like, again, Melton is another one of his childhood friends. And is somebody that Bora's mom wants him to be with.
Oh yeah, Bora's mom. Oh god, we didn't even mention her yet. Thank God, I hate her so much. Belma. She is originally like team Tucha and Bora. And then once Tucha effed up and was with Ruzgar, she was like over her, and Melton comes back into the picture, and so she is hardcore pushing Bora and Melton together. She ends up having her stay at the house even.
Yes.
And so so Ada's determined to show Melton's true face to Bora, but of course he's thinking that she's just jealous. And so in episode 10, it starts with Ada's fighting with Bora in his room, and then Melton ends up coming out in a bathrobe.
Which again mirrors the scene with Ruzgar showing up.
Which at the time I was honestly thinking that Bora manufactured that so that he could get back at her.
I feel like he did that on purpose. He made that happen.
He did.
He made that happen for reals because he's trying to make her jealous, you know?
Yeah.
With Melton, because he realizes that Ada is way out of her limits, not limits, but way out of how she regularly acts. She keeps accusing Melton, but somehow Melton always has a reason for everything that she does. But eventually he gets on board and like helps her track down, which is something that I really like, because to get to some apartment that she's staying at before, because they find out that Melton had come to Turkey way before she told
Bora she came like 3 months ago, and it was like 6 months ago that she actually came. So it was like she was obviously lying, and they were confused.
Once she was able to prove that to Bora, Bora's like, okay, let's see what she's hiding. And so they go to the apartment, and they're trying to get the keys into the apartment because
before that, how they get the address. That's one of my favorite all-time moments of Adbor is Ada ends up going undercover at this blacksmith place, and she ends up pretending that she's from Urfa, this city in Turkey that has this very distinctive accent. And so she's doing this whole accent talking about her fiance and his mother's, and how she has to do the balconies need like new posts and stuff, and so she's like making up all this stuff and making the poor guy run around getting all these.
She's like, no,
and catalogs, and so then he finally leaves enough that she can go and look through his little workbook
to get
and
the
she
address.
finds the address.
Yes.
And then my favorite moment of the episode,
she's about to get caught looking at the address when Bora arrives.
Like Bora's like, soup please.
And he hugs her from behind enough for like the address book to get back to where it was, and he explains to the guy
that the address book back, which I couldn't believe that Bora was actually like breaking laws and like helping Ada, and it was so cute. And so then they end up pretending to be engaged, and they're like saying all these pet names, and they're making all these faces, grabbing her face, and like pretending to bite at her. It's so funny, and they're both doing this accent
again. I love how like their fake relationship thing plays out throughout the entire show. I love that they didn't stick with the whole trope all the way, but enough for it to come back every time, and that makes the show entertaining. Honestly, that was a really good idea. And once they have the address and they're at the apartment, they're trying to find a way to get in, so then they're arguing because some neighbor pops out, and because they fake an argument, and he's basically saying something along the lines of, oh, she wants to send our kid somewhere and blah blah blah, and then she goes, no, I'll divorce you and I'll take the kid and blah blah, and at this point the neighbor is just like, oh my god, just get into the house, and then he somehow gets like a copy of his key for some reason that can open the door, and they get into the apartment. But I thought that was like the most funniest scene ever.
Oh yeah, and the bloopers for that episode too, because then once they get into the apartment, Ada climbs under Meltem's bed and finds this laptop, which of course ends up being part of the proof that they needed to prove that she wasn't who she said she was. And in the bloopers, Ada or Cemre gets stuck under the bed. It's so funny.
Can you tell we love Cemre? Because she is the star of this show. I'm sorry.
He really is. I was thinking about it last night, Jenny. If she wasn't the lead,
this show would not have been entertaining. Yeah, I probably would not have.
I would have watched like maybe an episode and then be like, meh.
Yeah,
like she's so good. Like even though the lies were so annoying and so dragging,
but we'll blame that on the writers. But the actors came and they did their job. Especially Cemre. She balanced out romance and comedy so well.
And we found out she was injured the whole time, too, which made it even more impressive that she was
just
so
blown away by her performance. And I was so happy when she won that award for Best Actress in the comedy lead, or just Best Actress. I don't remember which one it was. But I was so...
She deserved more awards. I'm so upset that she didn't win for the other one.
I loved how it was Demet to be the one to give her the award. I was like, this brings it back full circle to exactly my point.
Queens.
Yes. You're such a Cemre stan. We love her so much.
Yes. Well, there will be no Cemre hate in this house, that's for sure.
Yes.
Bora ends up giving Ada this special pen to kind of like try to apologize because he wants her to be able to write with it. But with the whole Meltem situation, it's getting ruined because of that. Like it twists into something not as lovely as it would have been.
I totally forgot about the pen. Thank you for bringing
the pen. Yeah, and also what makes it worse too is that we end up finding out Bora knew that Meltem was bad, and he was just teaching Ada a lesson, and that's literally what he said. And this is the time that I hated Bora, and I wanted to punch him in the face because I could not believe the audacity that he had. God,
it was so messed up.
Melton had fake chicken pox or something on. Remember?
No, I thought it was so messed up that she included Bora in her plans, and he didn't even have the courtesy to let her know that this is what he was planning. Like, imagine how hurt you would be if you find out that this guy that you really liked and you had a special connection to him and it was represented in a pen. Like, that basically represents their entire relationship throughout this entire show. And he gives it away like it's nothing to another girl, like, who he probably knew his entire life.
So he gave Ada that pen, and then he ends up giving the pen to Meltem as, like, the end of the party gift, and then that's when Ada goes crazy. And like, I know I was yelling. I hated that episode.
I was so pissed. I was like, oh,
I was mad.
My God.
It took me a while to forgive, like at least 2 episodes to forgive Bora, because I'm still mad about that.
I could not believe it.
And then episode 11 has my favorite, the boxing scene, because Yucha and Ruzgar break up, and so then Ruzgar decides that he's going to get back with Ada. Of course, Ada at this point is like, no.
She's totally over him.
She's so over him, and she can even sort of tell that she's liking Bora, or at the very least, she's not going to be with Ruzgar again. So she decides that she's going to play matchmaker and bring Tucha and Ruzgar back together. So they end up going to the boxing gym, the 4 of them. And
she lies to the couple because she's like, oh, this is my new article. And she goes, I need you two to help me out. So that's how she gets them to get to the boxing place in the first place.
Bora knows that Ada's mad at him about Meltem still, and so he ends up goading her into. She jumps on him and starts beating him up, and then they have this super super hot moment where Bora grabs her hands and like pulls her close to him, and she's like straddling him.
I'm gonna put a picture right here. I remember texting Gabby, hey, did they get fined for this? Because this is so insane.
It was sexy. A sexy scene. It was like they are on top of each other. Like,
I was
completely
like, whoa.
No space, no anything. And then it made even more sense, though, because they were together in real life. So I was like, okay, that's why they were so comfortable. So, yeah, so they are having their very sexy boxing scene of Ada Bora. And she's like, you're not listening to me. And he was like, I am listening to you. You're not listening to me. And they're just, the chemistry is insane. And so then they separate them. And my other favorite all-time Ada Bora moment is their hug with their boxing gloves on. It's so cute. They're like, here's good sportsmanship. And then he's like, come here, Ada, basically. And they have this very, very, very good hug. And it's so
but
cute.
They only do that hug so that they can get Tuche and Ruth's scared to do it.
Yeah, it's because they want them to hug too. And so they hug. But yeah, it's such a great moment between Ada Bora. Oh, loved it so much. Then next is episode 12, which is one of my favorite episodes. And so episode 12, Celine and Ollie pretend that he's been kidnapped by her to get Ada Bora together. And so, of course, they end up following them, and they go to the hotel, and of course the hotel owner says there's only one room. And Ada gets into the shower, and then Celine ends up cutting off the water, and so Ada's fake crying because she's covered all in soap, and it's so cute because Bora knows she's faking. He's like, stop it, Ada, I know you're faking. I love this episode so much. And so then later in the night, and the boys end up going to get water for the girls. They have to like walk down to this well, which is a really cute moment too. But my other favorite moment is the whole group plays Never Have I Ever. And Bora is so close to Ada and keeps gazing at her. And she's like, let's play another game. And then Bora's like, are you scared? Don't be. And he's leaning in and telling her to trust him. And it's so cute because, like, Ada and Bora end up, like, screwing up the games. Like, they're drinking when they shouldn't. But at the same time, they are telling the truth. So what was interesting to me is Bora ends up drinking to, I'm in love, like, I'm not in love right now, as in he was. And he looks right at Ada and does the whole shot. And then he later also drinks to Ada's question of, even if I fall deeply in love, I won't be able to muster the courage to tell them, meaning that he would. And so then they're left alone. Well, not alone, but everybody's sleeping. And Bora's like, do you want to go take a walk with me? And so then they end up going on the beach. And it's such a cute moment. He takes her hand and she's like, Bora Bae, you're holding my hand. And he says, you're holding mine too. And
That's
she's
so
like,
cute.
I
totally forgot about that moment. That was so adorable.
And they're walking hand in hand down the beach. And she says she's never seen such a beautiful sunrise. And then Bora says the sun isn't beautiful, it's her. And he's watched the sunrise many times, but the sun has never shone beautifully as her, not once. And he finally kisses her.
Yes, because oh my God, that was such a great scene.
He's like about to kiss her multiple times. I'm
glad it was on the beach with such a nice scenery. I was like, yeah.
Yes, and then Ada says she's in a dream. It must be a dream with her forehead still to Bora's. And he says it's not a dream, it's real. No dream can be as beautiful as her. Ah! Bora! Bora just making him swoop.
Shakespeare, what?
I know, Bora Shakespeare. That is what his name is because he was laying it on so thick and we were loving it.
And Celine was so excited when she found out. Oh my God, she is such a true, well, I wouldn't say true friend, but she was happy for her. I was like, yes.
Yeah, so they end up like going back to the hotel, and it was really fun too because Ali and Celine pretend that they were sleeping, even though they caught them walking. They were looking out the window when they were walking back from the beach. And so then they're like, oh, you sleep fully clothed? Because Ali and Celine kept acting like they'd just woken up. And Bora's like, why are you dressed? It was so funny. But yeah, so they have a bunch of adorable moments and they're talking about their feels with their besties. And when they get home, Bora's like, he wants to tell her, their fam, that they're together. And she's like, no, we have to wait. And they have this also really cute moment right before they go in the house. And then the next day, Bora is like on cloud love. And he says he's going to
smiling. His smile was so cute.
Yeah, he was being a completely different person. It was so obvious in that meeting. Yeah, so Ada and Bora end up planning to meet on the terrace, but of course Tuja is there with Ada. So Bora ends up running into her in the middle of the office, says they need to be alone. And he like ends up smelling her and like having like a meltdown because he's like, we have to be alone. So later they run into the supply closet, which was so cute. And Bora like just closes his eyes and just inhales her and he says, I missed you. And he was like,
goes, I'm here. She goes, I'm here.
Yeah, he says Ben Geldum. And then he's like, I don't want you to leave. Always be here. He says, you're not leaving here, are you? And she says, I don't want to leave. And they're about to finally kiss. And then the stupid worker tries to open the door. And Ada's freaking out. Bora says, I'm on fire very much. And he opens the door and starts yelling about the lock and the keys to that guy that interrupted. It was so funny. He's like making this whole scene. And then the guy's like, oh, Ada, you were there too? And then the episode ends with Bora inviting Ada back to the beach where they first kissed for their first date. And he made it so freaking romantic. He made fairy lights and they're dancing. And he tells
Ada was so cute. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it looked so good. And so then they're dancing and she finally finds out why he lost faith in love. And he says it because of all the lies that his ex told him. But he says, you're completely different, Ada, that she made him believe in love again. And he believed in love with her, that she won't upset him or destroy him or lie to him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the night is ruined for Ada. So she tells him she's not who he thinks she is. They can't be together, and she runs away.
Yeah, and then in that same episode, doesn't Ruskir also sign the divorce papers? He finally lets her go. I was so shook.
Rusgar. And so then my other favorite episode, episode 13, which is the one right after that, Bora chases Ada's cab and he gets the cabbie to pull over, saying the woman he cares about is upset, but he doesn't know why. And I loved because the cabbie before, right when Ada gets out of the car, he's like, you shouldn't make your loved one upset. And he was like, I know, Avi. And so it was so sweet. He gives Ada his coat, getting her from the cab, and he's trying to figure out what's changed, what happened. And Ada says it's all her fault. She fell in love. He says, what's wrong with love? And she asks if love can conquer all. And he says, and then he's looking at her this loving way again, and she's like, can you stop looking at me like that? And he says, I can't look at you any other way. And he says it's not love if everything isn't decided by love. So basically saying that it's not love if love doesn't conquer all. Yes. And she's it's so sweet. A lovely, more Bora Shakespeare for us.
Love that for us.
Oh, love that for us. Love that for our girl Ada, even though it's a mess too. And so Bora asks if there's someone else, and she says, no, there's no one else right away.
Lies.
Well, no, she's not, though.
She's not lying at that point, but there was somebody else.
Anymore.
I wished that she would have just told him, like, everything over dinner. Like, she was the one to, like, set it up. Like, Bora
I could see her like running away and trying to protect him, but yeah, at this point she should have just come out and told him. But those writers wanted to drag it some more.
Because Ada was a really direct person in the first few episodes, so I was surprised that she was not running away, but she was also pushing back. You know, from
I also love too that multiple times in this episode is she keeps saying, we're over, we can't be together. And he keeps saying, I won't give up on you. I won't let you go. And I love how much he is fighting for them and fighting for her. And so when they get back to his house, she says her and her family will be leaving soon. Belma and everyone will be happy. And Bora says, will we give up our happiness for others? And she says, it'll be better for both of them. And he says, no, you speak for yourself. I'm never giving up on you. And
love that.
Yeah, I love it. And she says, you're not listening to me. And he's like, you're not listening to me. I will never let you go. I will never give up on you. And sooner or later, you'll understand this. And Ada in her head she says she's determined to protect Bora, even from herself. So it's very heartbreaking because they both love each other so much, but because of the stupid curse in her lies, Ada is trying to protect him. And this is one of my favorite moments from the show, let alone, of course, this episode that I love so much. The next day at the office, Ada has flowers on her desk, and everyone is gossiping around, asking if she has a boyfriend. Bora texts her to meet him on the roof, and he tells her that the flowers can be replanted into the ground because he knows that she doesn't like flowers that can't be put back. And she says it scares her. Like, he knows her so well. And then she starts with
of everything.
It's not you, it's me. We're moving too fast. I don't know my feelings. She isn't ready for a relationship. Bora knows she's just finding excuses. He says, are you going to say that you can find a girl better than me? And she says, I was just going to say that. And Bora says none of these phrases have Ada in them.
So well. He knows her so well. That's what I really loved.
Yeah, and then he knows right away that she's just, like, saying all these BS, like, things to try to push him away. And he says that he knows she feels the same way he does. And he says, tell me the truth. She says, I'm scared I'll hurt you. And if you're with me, I will. And he said, how can your existence harm me? But he knows that your absence can or may. And so she finally tells him about the Baht Oyunu curse. And she lies when he asks if he's her first love. And he says, do you still love your first love? She says, no. And he says, do you love me? She says, yes, I love you. And he says, that is the only thing I needed to hear or know. So only because
I was so mad. I was like, no, that's not what you needed to know.
Yes, and so then he says, so only because of this stupid belief, I'll wake up in the morning without you. Come on, he says, come on, let's break this Baht Oyunu together.
Yes,
she says,
I love that.
He loves her saying, let them happen. I love it. He is so ride or die. He was like, literally, because she thinks he's going to die, possibly die, because of the curse. But yeah, Bora is just, I love this Bora. He is so ride or die for her and them. He's like, no, I don't care what's happening. We are staying together. I love you. You love me. And then another iconic moment, they go downstairs and everyone's still gossiping about the flowers. So he gathers everyone up and says, these flowers are from Ada's boyfriend, and that's me. And everybody is shook in the office.
He's like, yes, I am her boyfriend. You know,
I love Bora. He is so loud and so straight to the point and so steadfast. I love it.
Yes.
And so then Bora ends up tricking Ada into coming to the supply closet by telling Celine to tell her to go get more detergent. And he says he missed her, and she asks why he said that they're together to the whole office. And he was talking about his very strict rules and, again, secret relationships. And Ada's talking about how she's worried when their families find out. And he says nothing will happen while they're together, and he won't let anyone hurt her. Oh, it's so amazing.
I have to be honest. The episodes that Gabby is talking about, oh my goodness, I didn't get the chance to watch them live, so I watched them recently, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I kind of missed out because the lie was getting too much for me that I stopped watching.
You missed the best episodes of the series because it got so good, and then it got so annoying again. And then the ending was horrible.
Sweet. Like,
we'll talk about
this is the stuff they should have done in earlier episodes. Like, why did they drag out that dumb lie forever?
The melt's a mess. Like, episode 10 and 11 were kind of a mess. Like,
they could have wrapped that Melton one in one
episode. Yeah, she should have been one and done. The fact that we only got Kuzubati for one episode but got her for two is just disgusting.
Like, I think because of that, like, a lot of viewers got turned off by, like, the whole, when the writer's trying to make
her the lesson. Yeah, that was not cute at all. But then Bora, with him being adorable in these episodes, ends up making up for it.
He did redeem himself, I will say.
He really had a very, very deep hole to dig himself out of, and he somehow did. And I love that he was so happy because he's just Bora now, and so he keeps making her say Bora, and he's like obsessed with
Bora
it.
Bae, Bora Bae. I love how she says it.
It's like Bora Bae. Cemre is iconic saying that. He says, see, you're worried about the curse, but nothing bad happened to us. This means that no one should be afraid of it. And as he's about to kiss her, she goes, and puts the detergent bottle in between them. Which is so funny.
So cute.
I can't. He ends up literally kissing the detergent bottle because she puts it up. And I love it. And so she runs off, and she's right outside the door, and she's like, pull yourself together, girl. You're drowning. Like, keep calm. And he's smiling on the other side of the supply closet and says to himself, this is me drowning in love. Oh.
Yeah. Oof.
I can't. Oh, and then Bora just continues to be the best. So he goes back home, and his parents are fighting about the news of Adbor. And Bora stands up to his mother, saying that if your arguments about my love life have come to an end, can I speak? And he says, Ada. And Velma says, don't say her name. And he says, oh, should I say my beloved woman or the woman I'm in love with instead? And Bora ends up saying that, threatening to leave the house. He says, if the anxiety of this goes to Alif and Ada, he'll take both of them and leave this house.
Yes, he should have. And he honestly should have.
I was like, finally a dizzy man standing up to his family for his love?
Oh my God. I was like, yeah. I mean, technically, I get that she's his niece, but she's basically their child at this point.
And they really are basically a little family, because like they have been the whole show. And so then after that, later, it's like late at night, and Bora ends up getting Ada to come by the pool, and he gets her cotton candy, and she says, I love it. And he says, me too, looking at her hungrily, about to kiss her. Phone rings, and she comes up with the stupid idea that she's going to make him believe in the curse. So she makes them fall into the pool, and she's freaking out with him, but he's holding her up, and he says, as long as I am with you, evil will not touch you. Is that clear? What? Bad fate as well. Do you understand? Oh, so sweet. And she puts his head to her, and he says, but you won't be, or in her head, she's saying, but you won't be there. I won't be the second woman to destroy you. Oh, and so it's so sad. So Ada's like a mess. And so she ends up hugging him so like tight and sweet before they get out of there. And then the next day at the office, Ada continues her shenanigans to prove to Bora that Baht Oyunu exists. She ends up breaking the elevator, so Bora gets stuck in it.
I don't know why she's so dead, like,
this has nothing to do with you.
It. I have no idea why she just wants to prove it so badly to him, that it exists. Like, he understands it, but she really wants, like, for it to, like, for him to understand, like, the whole gravity of that situation. But I'm just like, why are you so
about the worst possible things this day?
I'm like, so you're happy, he's happy. Why can't y'all just be happy? Why do you have to bring this stupid Chris into it? You know what I mean?
It's ridiculous. And yeah, and so he I just love the whole irony of him yelling, this has nothing to do with you. He couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah.
She literally got you stuck in that elevator, Bora Bae. And I love what he said, I don't believe in the game of destiny. I believe in you. You will solve this. And he blows hot air and then draws a heart on the glass, which I loved that adorable moment. It's so cute. And so then Ada ends up setting fire to the generator and then like puts it out. So ironically, she ends up saving the day. So she like reversed
I'm very confused with her
on
behavior.
him. It's so funny. And Bora's like so surprised and excited. And he was just like clapping. And so then later they're in his office and he's praising how she fixed that problem, saying, how could she believe in the curse when this turned out so well? And he was like, it's so easy when you believe in yourself and you believe in us. And then there's this really sexy moment between them where he's like, he asks if she knows what he's thinking, and she says, what? And he says, what do you think? And then Ada says, but it's very embarrassing, Bora. We're in the office. Someone will see. There are windows everywhere. Ada was thinking some dirty thoughts, and he smiles so wild surprise, and she's trying to play it off. And then
I don't think Bora knew that she could go that far. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, he definitely was not expecting her to say that. And so he says,
but we, the audience, already knew that from
all
like
the time.
What happened? Sorry. What were you saying?
Oh. Ada Bora. Oh, he says and then he tells her that's always in his head all the time. And he's like getting closer and closer and she's smiling. And then they're about to kiss and Ali comes into the office and then he immediately covers his eyes and runs out saying someone called Ali Bey. It was so funny. I love Ali so much. And they're laughing and he says, he's like, where did you leave off trying to get back? And Ada says, ho, ho! I love when she
whoa. You know what I think is so funny? How like the guy that plays JJ just ends up in all of our favorite shows.
Yeah, he really
Not
does.
Our favorite shows, but like favorite aspects. Like he's just there. Maybe he's our good.
Yeah, he was in Bayanlish with our beloved Özden, and then he's in Baht Oyunu with them, and of course Kenji Kush, the OG.
He's there. Wow.
Oh, and then that night something hilarious happened. So Ali and Bora get drunk. And Bora thinks, so there's a robber in the house.
Oh my god, this is my favorite scene ever. He's basically helping the robber rob his own house. He
literally helps the robber steal all their stuff, and he's like laughing along.
He's so drunk while he's doing that.
Oh my god, he was such a mess. And so then the next morning the police are there and Bora's talking to Ada and she's like, no, I didn't do this. And then he was like, oh my god. And so then they go after the robber and they end up getting some of the stuff back. But Bora and Ali like pretend to be beat up to get the girls to take care of them. And Bora is enjoying Ada taking care of him so much.
Made him soup and everything. So
yeah,
sweet.
She made him soup. She was gonna make him hummus, and apparently Celine knows they're faking it because she takes Ali, and Ali gets up a little too fast, and she's like, "Go slowly," so Ada doesn't figure it out. When Bora says, "I will never give up on you," even in his beat up state, Ada says, "Don't." She doesn't listen. Don't listen to him, girl. But he's so sweet.
That's actually one of my favorite episodes. just because of how like the robber stuff. Oh my god.
Yeah, the robber stuff was so funny. And like Aytaç playing drunk was so good. He was so good in that on all those scenes with Ali. Yes. They fell in the pool too. I forgot about that. Remember him and Ollie like fall in the pool, and then the dad comes and he's like, "What are you doing?"
That reminded me so much of the Fili Aşk right there, like of
yes. Well, and it is the same dad. That's just so crazy.
And I was like, when I saw that, I was like, war flashbacks.
Oh my gosh. But yes, so then the end of the episode, after that, Bora says he knows that Ada organized all the bad fate things except the robbery. Yeah. But he will never give up on them, and he hugs her. Yeah. And he goes in the other room to take off his fake bandages and everything, and Jalal Bey arrives at the apartment. Of course, Bora comes out from the other room calling her Sevgilim. So, dun dun dun.
I know, I was so shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna go to jail.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh. And so then now episode 14, the following episode is my other favorite one. And so it opens with Bora telling Jalal Bey, the immigration officer, that Ada is his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And Ada comes clean to Jalal. She gets, she makes Bora go get some cookies and other things to get him out of the house. Mm-hmm. later Jalal goes and like confronts Ruzgar and basically says what trash he is and what a gem Ada is. Which
I was like, you go, uncle.
Yes, we love Amjad Jalal.
Yes.
He's the best.
And he's always seen her as a daughter, so I was so excited that he didn't put her to jail.
Yeah, they are so freaking cute together. But yeah, and so of course Bora wants Ada to tell her family they love each other and ignore the curse. And so then they go to the office and Tucha and the office set off confetti and they're like, what the hell is going on? And apparently it's celebrating their relationship and that Bora finally fell in love. And
oh like, my god. His workers, they were waiting for this moment.
They were so excited. Like, they were being so obnoxious. And so then, of course, Tucha and Ruzgar, they end up taking them to lunch and they end up making them fight because they're talking about like living together and deal breakers. Mm-hmm. And then they have these insane daydreams that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. About the kids and everything and the apple. Oh my gosh, it was such a mess. Mm-hmm. But I love because after that conversation, Eda leaves and goes outside because she was upset, and Bora follows her immediately and says, "What's going on with us?" Mm-hmm. And then he says, "I have had a crush on you for a long time." Mm-hmm. Oh, so sweet. And then he said, and then he was like, that this isn't something that we can't fight together. They'll learn to find a common solution by arguing with each other. And he hugs her and kisses her forehead. And they made up to Ruzgar and Tucha's dismay. And who they come out and they're like, oh, you two made up. Thank God our conversation didn't do any real damage.
Oh my god.
And I love this moment because at Bora, they end up linking fingers and walking away. And Bora kisses her hand. It was so cute. And then right after that, they're back at the office, and Ada's like working in some random office, and Bora sneaks up behind her and hugs her from behind. And he says that he needs the kiss that was on the balloon, and he can't restrain himself for her because she had a balloon with like her face written on it as a surprise for him earlier in another episode. It was so cute. And then shit hits the fan because the stupid aunts end up finding Bora's ID card at her apartment. And so Ada breaks up with Bora in the office in front of everyone, which was so embarrassing. And so, of course, Bora follows her to his house. And she's packing her suitcase. And he kisses her, saying, calm down, look into my eyes, and tell me you gave up on me and you don't want me anymore. If you say so, then I'll let you go. And Ada almost immediately is like, she has to behave this way. She's so sorry. Please be patient. Let them think we're not together. And she grabs him and kisses his cheek. So cute. And then Adbar is play fighting. So he grabs
I love
her
them like play acting now. Like they're like, yes, we're not together, but we are together.
Bora doesn't even question it. He goes right with this lady. He was like, okay, here we go. And so he's like, yeah, they're yelling at each other. He grabs her suitcase and takes it outside the house. And of course his mother is like smiling away because she thinks
like,
that they're
finally we're rid of this Ada. She has no idea what her son is up to.
He thinks it's finally over. And then later that night, stupid Ruzgar shows up at the apartment. So they're having a dinner with the aunts, Inishte, aka Aslan, and then Ada and Ruzgar. And then she hears somebody like yelling things about her coming down and come talk to him and Bora and stuff. And so Bora ended up getting this alcohol seller to yell these things to get him to come downstairs. And it's so funny. And so he says he hates pretending and he's uneasy. And he says he's going to go upstairs to tell her aunt that he can't give up Ada, that he loves her and wants to fuck her. But Ada ends up convincing him not to do that, sadly.
Yeah.
And then the episode just continues to be the best, minus the breakup mess, even though it ended up being smoothed over, is Bora makes this scavenger hunt for Ada. And so he has all these notes.
So cute. And, oh my gosh. I could not believe he did all that for her. So adorable.
Seriously is the best. And so he made there was things like a dress and then a single heel, and she ends the scavenger hunt on the roof where he has the other heel, and she's like, this is beautiful.
Like
and he's
Cinderella, basically.
Beautiful too. And then Ada's like, someone will see, and he says, let them see, I don't care. Oh, love it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and so then he's asking if she likes the dress and shoes, and she's like, what? And she's like, yeah, I love them, and she's like, what is it for? And he's like, for our dinner tonight, and you better not run away because I'll find you again. And she laughs.
Find you. That sounded like a threat.
What? It sounded like a threat. Yeah. Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna find you again. And then they're interrupted by that dude again that interrupted them when they were in the supply closet, who's talking on the phone to his mom. And then they start play fighting again. And Bora says to Ada, you stood in front of me with your shoe and said you will participate in a film shoot. And Bora's talking about when the filming is happening, aka when the dinner is. They're like play acting, like fighting that they're broken up, even though he's like telling her in code when to meet him and where. And so Bora ends up picking her up at Celine's house.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in a special white old convertible.
She's so good. I love her.
Oh, yeah, she looked amazing, even though that dress and shoes weren't great. She looked amazing. And they're both shook, and they're like looking at each other. And before driving away, Bora kisses her on the cheek. And then we finally see the dinner that he set up. It's by the pool with fairy lights again, since he remembered that she loves them so much from the first time. And Ada says, you're looking at me. And Bora says, yes, because you're the most beautiful thing in this world. I mean, come on, Bora's Shakespeare. They keep gazing lovingly at each other, and Ada says, you realize this is our first date? And he says, yes, which technically it's their second date.
Yeah,
because
I was
going
to say second. Because, actually, you could count it as a third, because that beach kiss, and then the fairy lights, and then this. But
oh, yeah, true, but...
Yeah.
But and then what I noticed right away is he pours her wine with, which, because we know she can't, she got trashed over...
I was gonna say, like... I don't know how you can get drunk.
How did get her drunk
off of chocolate?
Yeah, I was like, Bora Bay, what is this move? Why are you giving her shut up when she got white girl wasted on one liqueur chocolate, and you're pouring her wine? So I was like, Bora
Bay did not learn from his lesson.
Yeah, Bora was like, he's like, we're gonna get her a little drunk so that she is like everything goes smoothly tonight. But of course, that doesn't end up happening. And so Ada says she doesn't want to wake up from this dream and wants it to last forever. And he takes her hand and says, we're just getting started. Oh, so sweet. They're dancing, and Ada says, I'm spinning. I don't know if it's because of the drink or because of you. I'm not sure.
She's drunk on love.
And then it starts raining, and Bora says, I have another dream, and not just rain. And she says, me too. And they stay in the rain for a bit, which I was like, was that an innuendo? Because that's what I was getting from it. And then we cut to one of my all-time favorite scenes from the Dizzy and from them, is Bora's towel drying on his hair.
Yes, he's
on the bed.
He's like wiping her hair like with the towel. That was so domestic. I was
this is one of the most romantic moments I've ever seen.
It's so domestic.
And it reminds me of a Philly Osh. Remember when Kid M was blow drying Aisha's hair?
Yeah, that was so sweet. I don't know, like
romance men, take note, because this is what we want.
The little moments count a lot in this.
Yeah, and he takes all her hair and he smells it. And mind you, Ada's just in his t-shirt, and he's got a tee and jeans on, which, why does he have jeans on? And so Bora asks if she's better and warmed up now since she's out of those wet clothes. And she says she couldn't be better. And then Bora kisses her next shoulder, and she turns to him and says, don't do that. Oh, the chemistry.
The way we clown. The way we were clown.
I know. I yelled when this happened. Yeah. I was like, oh, nay? Nay? So he asks why. She says because she doesn't want to wake up from the dream. Bora takes her hand, lacing his fingers through hers, and says, you don't have to wake up. But she says, but I do have to wake up. And she puts her head to his forehead, saying, I'm scared. And he says, don't be scared. I'm here. And she says, don't leave me. And he whispers, I won't leave you. I won't. I told you. I will never leave you. And she says, you said we were just getting started. And he says, yes, and rubs his thumb over her cheek, saying, yes, we're just getting started. And so then Ada puts her hand on his cheek and he kisses her and she smiles and then he kisses her again and they lay down on the bed. But of course, there was no Havlet to be had because right then Ada jumps up because she hears her aunt and his mother yelling her name.
Mm-hmm.
So they were rudely interrupted. They were about to get it on, and that damn family showed up. They really are the worst.
I hate them. I wish they would just all.
And then the worst thing happens too is that so then like Ada ends up running away, and she leaves her clothes there. So then they end up thinking that Bora like had some random girl in this room. Because he's kind of covering for Ada / they're making that assumption. Mm-hmm. And so Velma's so happy and then her aunts are like so angry and like disgusted.
Yeah, they're just yeah. Anyways, moving on. I don't even want to talk about their family at all. Oh, they're both irritating. They ruined the moment. Elif and the dad were the only people I liked in the entire.
Yeah, literally, Elif and the dad, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and then the next episode is this cute like attorney ends up taking over Ada's divorce case from the lady.
And that makes Bora really jealous, and he's on like edge.
It was so funny. Like he was such a clown. He was following them when they went out to like a dinner that he like kind of forced Ada to go to. She was just like, "Can't we just meet at the office?" And he was like, "Oh, let's just go eat something while we talk about the case." So it was a big mess. And so then also then Bora brings Nergis and Aslan together with the lawyer and tells them that Ada that he found her first love. So they're all confused. They're like, what is going on?
Who is Ada's first love?
Yeah, it's like a huge cluster F. And then Ada, Tucha, and Ruzgar come to the.
Eventually, basically, all you need to know is that Tucha finds out the truth and basically will blackmail her for it.
Yeah, she really is blackmailing. And of course, this is when stupid Bora decides to propose to Ada.
Oh my goodness. I was like, you could have had any moment to propose to her, and you chose...
Bora was not reading the room at all. Like, these last 3 episodes were such a mess.
Blame the writers on that one.
Yeah, the writers, they really, like, we were, like, you saw, those 3 episodes in a row were some of my favorites, and then all of a sudden we went off the cliff.
It was just a mess. It was just so chaotic afterwards. And then
so anyway, Ada ends up getting divorced, and
finally probably goes back to Albania. Do you even know if he goes back to Albania?
What? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I don't even care.
We don't, yeah. But then,
so then the next episode, in the second to last episode, it begins with Bora and his family attempting to ask for Eda's hand, but it actually was pretty funny because they come. Ada thinks that they're there for Celine, for Ali to Celine get married.
Yeah,
so,
that would make more sense. True. That would make more sense, honestly, because they've been together longer than they have. So I totally understand her logic there. And can I say I love how the mom dressed up? Bora's mom dressed up as if she's going
to the funeral. Velma was literally dressed in her funeral outfit. She was so rude.
That was so. I mean, it was kind of funny. You can't lie.
But and then it was a mess too because so he like proposes. Or was about to, and Ada's like, no. And so then she breaks up with him and like says, no, I won't marry you because of stupid Tucha blackmailing her. Yeah. And then of course Bora's so upset. And then he ends up being an asshole and makes Ada be the driver, his chauffeur, because I
hate when guys get petty like this.
It was a mess. And so he makes her drive him and Tucha to some award ceremony.
Yeah.
And Tucha, of course, is, like, acting like they're together now.
Which, I hate when guys do that in Disney's. They get so petty, they don't even try to look for an answer, and then they just
No, they just jump to the conclusion right away. And
that,
it's like the worst.
I guess this girl must not like me. Hello. Of course she likes you. Come on.
Exactly. I know. He should have been like, something is going on, obviously.
For as perspective as
like yesterday, we were like about to bang. And then now she's like, no, we can't be together.
Exactly. And like, he's really perspective. So I'm just like, why wouldn't he use his brain? Like, come on. Like, come on, Bora, baby. I don't know.
And then the shirt I'm wearing is inspired by actually the last 2 episodes, the outfit that Ada's wearing.
I mean,
because she ends up getting fired by Bora after Tuğçe reveals her secret. She tells him about how she was pretending to be the ideal woman in the chat, and that she lied about everything else too.
She gets
and Bora
outed.
was horrible to her and says, "I want you out of my life. Like, I never want to see you again." All
gets
this
fired
stuff
from the company.
Yeah, it's a mess, but Ada is determined not to leave her job or Bora to Tuğçe, and so she ends up asking Zafer Amca, aka Bora's dad, for help, and then he gives her a new position, and Bora's still mad at Ada, and so he decides to send Tuğçe's writing thing to the award ceremony, because the last episode they were deciding too, even though the people of the award ceremony wanted Ada specifically. He was like, no, she doesn't work here anymore, so she can't be a part of this. But yeah, it's just it's a complete shit show. Final episode, it's horrendous.
But it ends abruptly because it ends with their marriage, and I was like, and
which
it's the
wasn't
same.
even new filmed. It was from the teaser trailer, which I will be mad about. I did love the scene of them like hugging, kissing at the end when he came to Bursa, and like, but he took a long ass time, by the way, to go get her. I think it was like 6 months or something.
It took him 6 months to really think about his actions. It took him 6 months. Do you know? Like, 6 months.
I would be mad at him for taking 6 months. I'll be like, okay, maybe a month to cool off. But yeah, and so it was funny too, because we end up finding out that Tuğçe ends up leaving the company, but she doesn't. Nothing happens to her. Like she doesn't get what she should.
Why don't the TV villains get any punishment whatsoever? Like,
there was no punishment whatsoever for her. She literally just left and just made her own company, which pisses me off to no end.
Again, like I was saying, I really would have liked it to end as like a bedtime story of Bora like basically telling their kids like, hey, this is how I met your mom. And
with Leaf even reading her little brother and sister.
Yes, that would have been so cute. Don't you think so? Instead of them recycling scenes.
The fans were making videos of them and a Leaf being the final scene of them looking up at the stars, and that would have been the best ending.
Yes. Or any mention about his sister and like her past about the curse. If they would have just done like a little something to wrap that up as well, we got nothing. And I was like the fans are better writers at this point. Like, what?
No, they really are, because I just can't believe I've never seen such a sloppy ending in my entire life. And like
promo
scenes was trying to sell the show, and then they did that.
Yeah, and then they took promo scenes and then recycled it. Like, come on, really?
When they didn't even look like that anymore. That was my favorite. Bora, that I touched didn't even remotely look like that anymore.
I really, really, really wanted to learn so much about Bora's sister, and it's so sad that they didn't get there, because it's obvious that like she played a really big part of making him him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, and his family too. His family, the way they were too, because that's also why Belmo was so protective of him as well. Not just because of his ex, but because of the sister passing away.
I don't know. But it was overall, in the 17 episodes, it was pretty entertaining. But what I found when I was trying to rewatch it was that it's not that great to binge watch.
I didn't fully binge watch either.
It didn't have repeat value to it, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it was way better for me to watch it live. And I think being in a fandom, like being on Twitter, is what really made it interesting to watch. But when you go back and try to watch it, it does drag out at points, and I blame it because of the lie. I think that extension of the lie that she told so many times the viewer
And
gets frustrated.
even towards the end too, we all were upset. Even I was upset, and because like a lot of people were bitching about it for the longest time. They were bitching about how the lie was dragging, and I didn't really. I wasn't on the team until like once they had said "I love you" and everything. Like the episodes after that, I was like, okay, no, this is ridiculous. Right. And like when she had to notice proposal, that was just so fucked up. But also, why was Bora proposing? And then you remember, Bora was proposing because remember he was insecure and upset about the first love thing, thinking the lawyer Turgut was her first love. So that's the whole reason that he was so like intent on proposing then, even though that moment was the worst possible.
And then
moment.
Can I add something else? Like if there could have been a way for them to do the storyline way better, like the writers, is to have Ada tell Bora everything like in a flashback or something, and then they could have had them trying to out Tuche and Uskir. Yes. That would have been way better if they were both in on it, you know? But I don't know.
Also, speaking of that, Bora is so intuitive and notices things. And remember, through the episodes, we as fans had fan theories that Bora knew that her and Ruth were together because he made faces and comments acting like he did. So that's the other thing that really pissed me off is like, when you know the show's ending, why don't you flip that script and be like, oh, Bora did know this entire time.
And that would have made sense, and that would have been within his character. That would have been within his character to do that. Exactly. I don't know why they didn't. He was
just like, get out of my life. It's like, wait, no, but you knew. You looked at them, and you knew something fishy was going on.
Exactly,
like,
right?
There's absolutely no way.
I don't know what it was going through the writers' minds when they okayed that scene of...
If I have a talk with them, because they ruined so many great things. What I just remembered, there was another great scene in one of the last episodes of Alif, Ada, and Bora at her school. Because remember, Alif gets in trouble for like fighting with one of the kids in her class, and Ada defends her so much. And that's one of the first times too that she calls Bora just Bora and not Bora Bay. And he was like he so
shuts
impressed.
Up immediately. He's like, because she's
he was into it. He was into it. You can see it in his face. And then there's a really sweet moment of the three of them walking down the hall together and then down the steps. It was so cute. You could see their little family growing.
Yeah, I really would have liked to end it on those three for like, you know, or in the future. Like I thought that for how short this series was, it would have been great if that's how it ended, rather than ending it on a marriage. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Yeah, just like I think our biggest takeaways of the show, what we would change is the lie would not be dragged as long. It would have been like solved, you know, maybe 3 episodes at least before the 17th episode, which ended up being the finale, but whatever. And then also Bora knowing that the lie, like he should have known that her and Ruth were a thing. Like,
I don't understand why they made their character dumb. Like, come on, especially when you have someone as great as Bora, who uses their brain.
Well, yeah, and they made those breadcrumbs too, Jenny. That's the worst part, is they made those breadcrumbs, and then they just acted like we were crazy. It's they
acted like we were the stupid ones for noticing. That's what I feel like the writers were like, oh, they already know that, so if we do it, it wouldn't be much of a... I was like, no, we don't get mad at us for being smart.
So hard, Jenny. I remember from the beginning, I was like, Bora is going to surprise everyone. He's not going to be as bad as you think he's going to.
I remember we said that in the group chat. We were like, yes, mark it, and then it never happened, and I was so mad.
Whoops. And then Tuna Fish was like, F your theories. We're going the opposite direction. He's going to be a total asshole and be so mad at her. And I was just like, wow, I clowned so hard. So that is all for our rant about our semi-beloved. I have more fond memories, I think, than Jenny does. Jenny rewatching, she seems to see more flaws. Well, I still was the same to me. I love them so much.
I love the show because this is the first show that I really watched live. When I mean live, I mean I kept up with it. Like the translations I watched the next day and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So this was like the first show that I really tried to keep up with, and that's why it's really special to me, because I didn't try to keep up that much. Even with Aziz, is like I kind of quit halfway, and I was like, whatever. And then it ended up being canceled anyway, so I was like glad I stopped anyway. But this show, I like kept up with it because it was so fun to be around on Twitter. Like
yeah, exactly.
We have
yeah, like you said,
great
that
fandom.
just enhanced the show even more because we had such a great fandom and we had so much fun together, and it made the episodes even better. And of course, Queen Cemre just absolutely killing it.
Yes. She's so amazing. Like, because of this show, I'm gonna like I already follow her, but I know she's gonna do good work in the future. For sure.
And then her and iTouch being together in real life is just the cherry on top.
Oh my god, that ship really sailed. They're together. They're still together. As we're currently filming this, they're together. Oh, Aitash is like you could tell that he's impacting her because she's been posting black and white photos all of a sudden. I'm like, Cemre, no.
Yes. They are so cute together. And like, I really do think they're going to be together for a long time. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. So that was the end of the episode. We hoped you guys enjoyed. And if you guys have any recommendations for us, please leave them in the comments below. Subscribe.
Yeah, if there's a show that you really want us to do a podcast on, especially, let us know. I mean, we're obviously going to do our beloved or Kenji Kush at some point. We're going to do SCK with Khadija. She keeps asking us actually.
And then, of course, we're going to do my favorite, Uch Kurush, soon as
well. Yes, we love Uch Kurush. I want to do Zemheri. I'm trying to get Jenny to watch my beloved Zemheri with Aicha and Alperin. And I also want to do her Yedi Sen, my all-time favorite rom-com besides.
I haven't seen it, so that'll be a treat for me. To be honest, you guys, there's a lot of shows I haven't seen because I'm fairly new to the scene with Disney.
Yes, I'm your big sister in this way as well, guiding her through Disneyland.
Yes, so which is why Gabby does most of the talking. She just talks and I listen and I'm like, yes, and I put in. But she is a veteran. Obviously,
and my memory is really, really good too.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys! This pandemic has made me have the attention span of a goldfish. Let me tell you, it's bad for your girl here. But anyway, please like, subscribe, and share.
Oh yeah, our next podcast, by the way, everybody, will be.
Oh yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. It will be Demet's new rom-com movie on Netflix, which comes out February 11th. So probably we will have a Valentine's Day special podcast for you all with our queen, love of our life, Demet Özdemir. So be looking forward to that, as we are very, very much looking forward to this.
Yes. Oh my god, we love her so much. Okay.
Bye everyone. Bye. See you then.